All right, and we are live. How's it going, Ranger fans? Thank you guys for chiming in. It is Ranger Review episode 57, and damn, oh boy, is this going to be a fun episode today, folks. The New York Rangers did it. They somehow, some way, legged out after being down 3-1 to the Pittsburgh Penguins after giving up 14 goals in 2 effing games. Somehow, some way, come all the way back to win it in 7. We're so pumped up. I'm so excited to break this all down. I hope you guys are too. For everyone in the live stream, thank you guys so much for being here. For people that are listening wherever you get your podcasts, thank you so much too. We'll be deep diving our initial reactions to this amazing series victory for the New York Rangers, everything that went right, what went wrong, and how we are looking ahead now to the Carolina matchup, facing a bunch of former Rangers, not the Tampa Bay Rangers, but yes, the Carolina Rangers. So we'll be deep diving that all, and I'm very, very excited. Like I said, I can't contain myself. Steven, how you feeling today, man?
Tired, exhausted, happy, excited, thrilled, so many emotions, but mostly tired. Um, Thankful that the Rangers and the Penguins decided to finish it in the first overtime period and not carry it all the way on to a third one again. No, but this team, man, yeah, that early in the season when you asked me what is your goal for the Rangers, I said I want the Rangers to play at least 7 playoff games. That's it. That's as easy as I can phrase it, because you can, if you play 7 games, you either have a game 7 elimination or you make the second round, and either of those are great experience for a young team. But for the Rangers to come back from being down 3-1 in the series, being down 2-0 in game 5, very reminiscent of the Capitals series in 2015. If the people that have been following the Rangers for a couple of years will probably remember this.
Yes.
Capitals up 3-1 in the series, and in the game, the Capitals were up 2-1. And 20 seconds to go, Chris Kreider tied it. And I'm going to reference something that was said on the broadcast that day. Rangers tied with 20 seconds to go, and then they win in overtime. I think it was McDonough who scored the
Yes,
overtime.
it was Mac who pinched in and just
Yeah.
absolutely ripped it. Yep, I remember that like it was yesterday.
I think it was Stepan who threatened to shoot and then passed it sideways to McDonough, who had a better angle, and then
Correct.
won it in overtime. And the camera focused on Matt Zuccarello, who was out with who had that weird puck to the head, of course.
Yeah, he literally like cracked his
Yeah.
skull. It was
Mhm.
like it was insane what happened to
And
him.
as the broadcast focuses on Zuccarello, the play-by-play guy of the NBC crew, trying to remember who it was. It wasn't Doug Emmerich, but the other guy, or maybe it was a radio call. I don't know. I'm really bad at linking names, especially radio. Maybe it was Don LaGreca, but someone said the Rangers just planted a seed, and when the Rangers in this series won Game 5 and came back to 3-2, I felt the exact same way. There was something different about how the Rangers played that game, and they started off shit. To be perfectly honest, that triple overtime game was terrible. Gave up way too many shots, but as the series progressed, the players that needed to step up stepped up. Shesterkin, the last 5 games, so after games 1 and 2, his save percentage went from 733 to 800 to 906 to 912 to 933 in game 7.
And what's even more impressive about that, Steven, is in every third period, combining all the third periods for the Rangers in this series, Igor had a save percentage of 990. Explain to me how, in God's name, is that possible? But yes, for Igor Shesterkin, the anomaly of a goaltender this season, that is in fact possible.
And we are now going on to a series against the Carolina Hurricanes, which we'll dive into later.
Yes.
After arguably getting the worst goaltending we'll ever get from Igor Shesterkin. But some numbers. After being down 3-1 in the series, in the final 3 games, the players that stepped up: Mika Zibanejad, 7 points in 3 games. Adam Fox, 6 points. Andrew Copp, 4 points. Chris Kreider, 3 goals. Ryan Strome, 3 assists. And, of course, Artemi Panarin with that overtime game winner last night, Game 7. Panarin did not have a good series, and this has been a theme in the regular season too. You know, he plays underwhelming, and somehow, some way, he still finds a way to contribute. He still finds a way to get us the win.
He just
And
needed
this
to shoot the
team,
puck. He didn't do it at all. He didn't do it at
yeah,
all the entire game yesterday until
yeah.
it mattered most.
But this team, if you compare this to 2014, 2015, you know the big difference between those teams and this team?
Enlighten me.
Uh, that team was just depth. That team had 3 second lines.
Yes.
This team has 2 top lines that can go up against on their day when they are in the zone. They can go up against the best team. Game 7, Zibanejad was 72% on faceoffs.
I was so effing jaw dropped. The amount of
Yeah,
faceoffs he was winning there in the
yeah,
end, and then in OT. I was like, what?
yeah,
Where did this come from, Miko? Oh my god, it was insane.
yeah. I think hiring that linesman over the summer finally paid off.
I mean, it was a little long overdue, but hey, it worked.
No, but the balance this team has, man. The first couple of games, you have the kids stepping up. You know, Miller, Schneider, Heel, Kako, Lafreniere.
And they deserve all the praise in the world for what they did this series.
Look,
My goodness.
first time since 1979, the Rangers have at least 4 players aged 22 or younger to score a goal in the same series.
Wow.
Heel, Miller, Kako, Lafreniere. Schneider, 3 assists this
Not
series.
bad. Not
He had
bad.
a secondary assist on the first goal by Kreider last night. That 2-on-1 breakaway he set up for Zibanejad. Yeah, it's just, as a Rangers fan, it's just this is as good as it gets ever since the rebuild started so far. We're in the second round. We have our young player stepping up. Adam Fox with that 4-assist game in Game 6, man, that's huge.
That was
Because
huge because Foxy definitely had his peaks and valleys in the series.
Because let's also not forget, games 3 and 4 were arguably our worst games, both played in Pittsburgh. Now, for game 6, you had to go back to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And you had to go to Pittsburgh to tie the series, and that's when Adam Fox steps up with 4 assists. Man, it's just so awesome. Igor Shesterkin, the youngest Rangers goalie to record a win in Game 7.
Wow.
Oh, here's another one. Adam Fox, the first Rangers defenseman ever to score in 7 different games in the same playoff series. Not even Brian Leach has done that. First defenseman to record a point in 7 different games in a series.
Beautiful.
And the last thing I want to say, thank you to Mike Matheson, by the way, for that beautiful goal to tie it up.
Oh, it was so sweet of him. I knew that he would be effective somehow.
Or as I called him, Mike Nemethison.
You see how different this team looks without Nemeth in the lineup?
Oh, yes.
Ridiculous.
Kreider, the first Rangers, is Adam Graves in 96 and 15th all time to score at least 5 goals in a playoff series. And the last thing I'll share here is Kreider. I've been talking about Kreider's number going up in the rafters when he retires. Cup or not, it's going to happen. Mark my words. Book it. And I've been talking about regular season numbers and where in 5 years we'll end up. Playoff edition. Where Chris Kreider ranks in Rangers history in the playoffs. 2nd in goals, 10th in points, 4th in power play goals, 1st in game-winning goals, 7th in games played. And he still has 5 years to go. And this team is on the brink of becoming a contender for a decade. Kreider's going to finish in first place in all these categories in Rangers history. He's going to be first in games played, points, goals, power play goals. He's already first in game-winning goals with 8. Sorry, nobody can convince me that number 20 is not going up in the rafters when he retires.
Okay, Steven. I got a lot to say here. I know you do too. And Let me just start off again by describing the complete lack of feeling I had, how numb I was after losing game 5 the way that they did. Alexis Lafreniere, of course, scores that first goal of the game. That was the only highlight of that game. I think we can all say it was
You mean
done.
game 4?
Game 4. Yes, my mistake. Yes, I it, the amount of life that was lost in this team for I wouldn't even say the first game between those back to back. I mean, the Rangers played a game, a very close game. That again, not going to count those empty netters. That was a close one until the very end. They just didn't play again a full 60. They only played one strong period, in my opinion, there in game 3. And then game 4, they didn't play one strong period the entire game. And don't get me wrong, the officiating was absolutely horrendous this entire series. We saw it all. We saw so many calls in the beginning going the Pens' way. We saw some calls that I say definitely there were some calls that went the Rangers' way. But I mean, it was so lopsided. It really how it felt that way. With trying to take off my biased glasses as much as humanly possible, it was absolutely absurd the amount of stuff that we were getting away with. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. And for that reason, I do believe that the series felt done. It really did after you saw what happened through the first couple games when they were down 3-1 the way that they were. Then for them to get the life that they did there and to score after being down by a couple goals in what felt like every single game after that, to come back. And for Mika, more than anything, everyone was calling for Mika's head. That entire line, that entire Kreider Mika line was non-existent for the first couple games. He wasn't winning faceoffs. He wasn't doing anything effective. I thought Mika had an okay first game, but for the most part, outside of that, it was terrible. So to see him be able to come back and not just step up, but show that, yes, he is worthy of his new contract. Same thing, not just with him, but the guys I feel are still, they got a lot of credit, but they deserve all the credit in the world, is those kids. That entire young line of Kakko, Chytil, and Laffy is the only reason, in my opinion, why the Rangers stayed in this series, even though that they were down 3-1. Chytil proved, in my opinion, that Cruz Drury has a lot more questions to figure out and answer this offseason. Chytil has played his best hockey of his entire career that we have seen. It's just absolutely jaw-dropping how amazing he has looked, how great Kakko has looked, especially along the boards with his one-on-one game, and Laffy, of course, doing what Laffy does, just being such an effective player. And to see them all rally together, and as you said, the guys that are getting paid the big bucks at the end of the day to come through, this changes everything, okay? Look, I have no clue how this Carolina series is going to go. I obviously hope that the Rangers get through, but if I'm being completely honest, even if they don't, I feel so much better about this team than I would have should the Rangers have won in, say, 5 games or whatever it may be. But seriously, I mean, the complete script just completely flips now. Now we head to the Carolina, and now we enter the offseason, whenever that's going to be at any point, knowing that there are far less questions than I think we originally had. And a massive props needs to go to the likes of Gerard Gallant, because Gallant, especially in those first couple, when we were down 3-1, he was doing very little adjustments. He was not doing enough, in my opinion, to get a fire under his ass.
Last night, we were down after 2 periods.
And he changed it up, and it was perfect. It was like David Quinn, but actually when you're supposed to change it up, not every couple minutes, when it's meant to be. A perfect timeout when he did it with the power play. He was locked in. That proved so much to me about Gallant and everyone. And Igor to step up the way he did after, of course, in that game, first couple games when he got hit by Carter, did not look the same after that. You saw the chance for bothering Igor in Pittsburgh. He gave up some soft goals. Don't get me wrong, the Rangers hung him out to dry, but that was some of the worst goaltending that I've seen from Igor all year long. And it wasn't all on his fault, of course, but to see everyone completely change things while, again, Crosby in the lineup, Raquel and Jari back for that game 7, that meant so much more to me. And of course, as it's seen in the chat right now, and I agree wholeheartedly, Tyler Motte. Tyler Motte was my favorite player last night. From the PK to the 5-on-5, he just was electric every single time he was on the ice. And with all these guys combined the way they did.
I've been talking about Motte ever since we acquired him at the deadline. This guy is different. This guy brings something that the Rangers don't have yet. I like Vetrano. I love Vetrano, but Vetrano is a player that I'm not worried about, keeping. Motte, on the other hand, he solidifies our bottom 6. And with Gaudreau out of the lineup, the return of Tyler Motte really gave us that structure in the bottom 6 that we needed.
Absolutely. I mean, you were praising Mott left and right, as was I, as soon as he was acquired by the Rangers. He wasn't putting up the points, but he was doing everything
Mhm.
that you need from a bottom six forward. And now that the Rangers have him, I mean, it 100% sucks that we don't have Barclay Goodrow right now. Maybe we will get him back at some point in the Carolina series. I know that Gallant says, he's not going to say that he's definitely out, but at the very least, thankfully we have Mott back because that fits a huge role that this team desperately needed. It's a spark like no tomorrow. And without Mott, I don't see the Rangers winning the series. I really don't.
No. Yeah, it's just, last night, putting Motte with Zibanejad and Kreider when he was starting to mix it up. Motte got the breakaway, didn't convert on, but that's fine. But something happened when Gallant was mixing the lines, and this is the difference between Gallant and Quinn. Quinn was mixing lines and benching players the moment anything happened. Like it could have been game 13 of the regular season where the Rangers give up a 2-goal lead and he goes, okay, now I'm going to bench like these 3 players and I'm going to go with 9 forwards for the rest of the game. That doesn't work. Gallant, on the other hand, never benches his 4th line. We were in a triple overtime game 1, and Reeves and Rooney were still out there. And you can argue that, yeah, they're not going to win you the game, but by putting them out there for a 30, 40-second shift once in a while, it keeps your top line players fresh. So it still gives you a better chance to win. But yeah, I mean, this series had everything. And I cannot get enough of the salty tears of Penguins fans.
It reminds me of I'm sure you're not aware of this, but there's a show called South Park. You might be aware of it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's a really messed up episode, so I won't get into it. But point being is that Cartman finds himself like quite literally drinking the tears of the guy that he was trying to upset. And he's like, "All those tears are so yummy," doing all that. That's how most Ranger fans feel right now. Because
Yeah.
if it wasn't as lopsided as it was in this series, and if it wasn't for the Rangers being taken away from a game-winning goal game 1, I think the perspective is completely different. I mean, not
Mhm.
fully, but a good portion of the perspective is different. But for Pens fans to be out for, of course, that you'll be talking about more here in a second with Sullivan focusing on the helmet as if he didn't just watch his team have opportunity after opportunity to secure a series victory after being up 3-1 with one or multi-goal lead in every single one of these games. I think there's some self-reflection that needs to be had. Same deal
Oh,
with Crosby.
speaking of self-reflection and the helmet incident, maybe the Penguins should take some time to educate their players on the rule book.
Let me hear
Because
Steven.
a player does not necessarily have to go to the bench when he loses his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
He can pick up his helmet, put it back on in a timely manner, and stay on the ice. But what did Pettersson do? He was complaining. He threw his hands up in the air. He was looking at the refs, and then
He
he
did
went to the bench.
exactly what you shouldn't do in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. But here's my favorite thing about that whole sequence, because Sullivan complains that cost them the goal. No, Letang came on for Pettersson after that incident. By the time Zibanejad scored the goal, Letang was already set up. He was in between Jari and Zibanejad. He was set up. He was ready to make a defensive play, and he just didn't. The helmet didn't cost him the game. And if I'm Mike Sullivan, I'd be more upset about my team giving up a lead 3 games in a row where you have the opportunity to clinch. You're up 3-1 in the series, and then let me quickly go back, right? Okay, so you're up 3-1 in the series, right? You go into game 5, you travel into New York, you play at Madison Square Garden, Gensel and Letang score, and with 35 minutes to go, you're up 2 goals. You're 35 minutes away from ending the series in 5 games. That's it. All you have to do is not concede multiple goals in 35 minutes.
And what did they do, Steven?
Well, they conceded 3 in 2 minutes.
There you go.
And yeah, all this complaining about, but the elbow to the face with Crosby. Well, first of all, he didn't have a concussion. It was
There was a more blatant elbow, wasn't it, from Letang?
No, there was a blatant elbow from Gensel on Truba.
Yes.
That was never
Yeah.
called.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Truba has been in the mix of a lot of things, and I don't believe that he has been fully innocent in all of them. But that was not a play, in my personal opinion, where he was straight up headhunting. But naturally, because he has a narrative being a big body defenseman who quite literally just crippled Jujar Kara during the season, especially,
Mhm.
that stood out to a lot of everyone when that was a clean hit. But again, we live in a day and age with hockey where, God forbid, if you have yourself thrown a clean hit, you drop the gloves right away, because that's just the game we live in now. You can't
Yeah.
play the way that you used to, even when it is clean.
I also think it's ironic that Penguins fans complain about the helmet rule, which was designed for player safety, when they also complain about their players being targeted. Like, I mean, what do you want? You know,
Talking about safety, I feel I feel pretty confident saying that Crosby probably played through a concussion. I don't see them focusing about their own personal health and safety.
look, if Crosby wants to play through a concussion, I mean, I'm not going to really going to argue with him. But look, the
No, I'm not going to
Penguins.
argue with him either. I mean, I
No,
don't blame him. I'm just
I mean,
saying, like, from a health standpoint, it's very hypocritical.
but the reason the Penguins lost is because they couldn't hold a lead to save their fucking lives. Game 5, they have a 2-goal lead with 35 minutes to go. Game 6, they have a 2-goal lead at the end of the first period. They still give it away. And then Game 7, they have a 2-1 lead with 30 minutes to go in the game, and then a 3-2 lead with 5 minutes to go. They had a lead in every one of those games where they could have clinched it, but no, they gave it away, and somehow it's the referee's fault, even though every 50-50 call went their way. The Hedl goal in game 1, the goal by Evan Rodriguez where the net was dislodged. And I'm not saying these calls shouldn't have gone their way. I'm just saying they're 50-50 calls and they go their way. Talk about the first Penguins goal last night where it went over the line and the refs didn't see it, but Toronto called in.
Yep.
Again, good call, but it's still a call that goes their way. And then the Gensel goal, where
And that was borderline. That was pretty borderline in my
it
opinion.
was inconclusive. It was inconclusive. And people go, oh no, the stick is above the crossbar. It doesn't matter. Where the puck touches
where the puck
stick,
is. Yep.
Where the puck makes contact with the stick. And that's something we couldn't see because Shesterkin's glove was blocking it. And that's the thing. It was inconclusive, and the call on the ice was a good goal, so they counted the goal. Every one of those calls could have gone either way. When the Rangers were robbed of that Hedl goal, Gallant said, well, it's a 50-50 call and it didn't go our way. Fine. And now the Penguins, Mike Sullivan is complaining that the refs are against them and this and that, blah, blah, blah. No. I'm not going to say that the Rangers didn't get calls going their way, but there was no bias against the Penguins. And this is not just Penguins fans. I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm getting sick and tired of Ranger fans complaining about referees during games too. I'm getting so tired of it. It's so exhausting to go onto social media after something happens and they go, oh, the refs just hate us. The refs hate New York. Bullshit. No, the refs don't hate New York. Just watch the game, and some of these decisions will go against us, and some of these decisions will go in our favor. It happens. The referees are not trying to eliminate us because our team is from New York.
Steven, if I may interject for a second, and I felt this way for a while, and this isn't anything personal to anyone specifically, but I am not a massive fan of a large contingency that is Rangers Twitter, or let alone social media. The same thing how I am with a lot of my fellow Mets fans, and you guys know that because they quite literally think the sky is falling when we're down by a run. So I see a lot of those similarities. And again, it's New York, it's Big Apple. I get it. We're always going to have that irrationality, but I mean, so many fans just take it so effing far to the point where I just find myself biting my tongue. I'm like, I can't. I really just can't. There's so many moments where I just like, I'm not. I do not give a damn about this right now. I really don't. And it's unfortunate, but again, that is a part of being in New York. That's just going to happen at the end of the day, regardless on if we like it or dislike it. Opinions, everyone's entitled to them. Doesn't mean that we have to agree with them all, and I know I surely don't.
Mm-hmm. But listen, the Rangers won a Game 7 at home against a team that had never lost a Game 7 on the road. Coming into last night's game, the Penguins were 6-0 on the road in Game 7 in history. So yeah, we did something that had never happened before. And so many records, and we're going on to the second round, and we'll see what happens next. But yeah, this series was. I said this to you earlier. This series consisted of 3 phases. You had phase 1, where the Rangers and the Penguins split games 1 and 2. Then you had phase 2, where we were absolutely dominated in all 3 zones.
Some of the worst hockey I've ever seen from the Rangers.
That's probably some of the worst playoff hockey I've seen from the Rangers in my lifetime.
That's the worst playoff hockey I've ever seen from the Rangers.
And I've seen the Rangers get swept. I've seen the Rangers lose series in 5 games.
Yeah, this was different though.
I remember when they played the Capitals, I think in 2010, and they lost in 5, and it felt like a sweep. But it was still they still played decent. They still had opportunities. Games 3 and 4 this series were absolutely dreadful. And yeah, Shesterkin was part of that too. But you concede 7 goals in back-to-back games in the playoffs. That had never happened before for the Rangers. And then what we talked about earlier, the next 3 games, you're facing elimination 3 games in a row. The Rangers are now 19-11 in the salary cap era in elimination games, by the way.
I mean, and if I'm being quite honest, I think we know what the biggest factors in every single one of those games has been. Don't overthink this. Goalie, yes.
Yeah,
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, true. But yeah, there's something about Game 7, man.
Igor got that first taste of what Henrik was known for. You know what I mean? Like it was so great to see. I know we've already seen the passing of the torch, but this is that further passing of the torch now. It's playoff hockey time. Yeah. It's a different animal. And knowing that he went through the ebbs and flows that he did in this series, where we quite literally saw, I think, some of the worst hockey that we've ever seen from Igor Shesterkin, all things considered, in this series. Same way we've seen some of the worst playoff hockey ever by the Rangers. This was quite literally, as you mentioned, and it's so crazy to fathom again, 3 different series in one. And one thing that I do want to mention quick, because we didn't really talk about much, I see a lot of people commenting about on the live stream, and they're right, is Ryan Lindgren and his impact, from his injury to return. That was such a tipping point in a positive matter for this Ranger club. Just like in my opinion, the Rangers don't win either without Lindgren. And he really helped balance things again with Fox, because things just looked out of place. They really did.
You know who our best defenseman was this series? K'Andre Miller.
100%. K'Andre Miller, we have flipped a script on him so much in 1 year, and there's nothing that I could be more proud and happy about. He's one of my favorite players on this team. This, like Hedl, these are defining moments. I know that K'Andre did a lot in the second half of the season, not so much Hedl, but this is what matters most at the end of the day. And this is your first taste, right? This is your first taste of playoff hockey.
I don't remember who said it. It was a former player, but or was it maybe Mike Babcock? Some are 82-game players and some are 16-game players. And this is the time of year where we find out who our 16-game players are. All you need is 16 wins. And look, I didn't expect the Rangers to go all the way and win this year. But I'm going to say something here. When we win the Cup in a couple of years and the Rangers go down the Canyon of Heroes to celebrate winning the Stanley Cup, last night's game is going to come up a lot. Because last night's game is the start of something. It's your first playoff series. And Joe Micheletti said it on the broadcast last night. Those 3 games in the qualifying round in 2020 were not playoffs. Those were games to get into the playoffs.
Yes. This
was the first playoff experience for a lot of our young kids. This was the first playoff experience as a Ranger for guys like Strome, Panarin, Trouba. And what happened last night, coming back from yet another, from again being down in the game, to then win it in overtime in a game 7 at home. That is something that's going to come up in look when the Rangers won in 1994. The moment that we all remember is the Motte goal and the Marc Messier guarantee. I don't think there are moments necessarily in like the first 2 rounds that are very notable, now 30 years later, or almost 30 years later, against the Islanders and the Penguins, Islanders and the Capitals in 94. But I think the 92 postseason for the Rangers is what helped shape them to win in 94. And what's happening this postseason, what happened last night when the Rangers win a cup, last night's game is going to come up because that's going to be an integral part to building that team that can eventually win it all. We came into this series with 593 playoff games combined on the team. 180 of those were shared between Braun and Kreider. The Penguins, almost 1,500 games experience coming into the series. You have Crosby, Letang, and Malkin with 3 rings. You have Gensel, Rust, and Carter with 2 rings. I think Dumoulin has won cups with the Penguins as well.
Yeah, doesn't he have at least one? I feel like he won at least one of those.
I think so. Of course, Carter won his 2 rings with the LA Kings. Brian Boyle went to cup finals with the Rangers and the Lightning. The Penguins have that playoff pedigree throughout the lineup. The Rangers have a little bit of it, but it's Kreider on the top line, then there's Gaudreau in the bottom 6, and that's basically it. And Justin Braun made it to a cup final. I always mix up the Sharks and the Predators in 2016.
Oh, so do I. Who cares? Literally, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Whichever one of those 2 years the Sharks made the final, Justin Braun was an integral part to that Sharks defense.
Yep, and that was Braun's prime. I remember that series very
Braun
well.
Vlasic was a great
they were the shit
part of that team.
Goodness.
Last night's winning game 7 is going to come up in a lot of conversations years down the line. When we talk about the Rangers being a contender, when we talk about winning a cup, maybe 2, hopefully 3, this is going to be one of those games that we're gonna be recapping as the start of something special.
And to continue that notion, you're 100% right, because it's one thing when looking at this season as a whole, right? We've said it time and time again, and I'll reiterate once more. This was the first season for the Rangers out of the rebuild/retool. This is under Gerard Gallant. This is under Chris Drury, new regime in that aspect.
It was also the first season with 82 games.
Yes,
for a lot of these players.
Yeah, exactly. And we finally got to see them all blossom in a lot and see the growth of not just the youth on this club and what are expected to be a pivotal part of this team going forward over the next, at minimum, decade, if not a full decade, but also the vets now still truly in their prime and to help carry this team to the promised land. I don't expect it this year, but I do expect it hopefully in the near future, no less. And to see them all come together and to see the amount of adversity again, I simply can't get over the fact of how this series went and how, again, it was a roller coaster. It truly was. But no one, I'm sorry, but no one and their mother would have thought that the Rangers would have came back the way that they did after being down 3-1. That says so much about this team's character and how they are currently in line now for the years going forward. Yes, this series, that game 7, that along with this amazing season for the Rangers is all the starting point of what should hopefully be some amazing Ranger hockey for the next years and years to come. And, this doesn't denounce the fact that, look, anything can happen in playoffs. We know that. Until the Rangers are done, they have as good of a shot as anyone else when it comes to the cup. In my game, I hope not. No, of course not. If the Rangers get out of Carolina alive, I will be not just a little bit surprised, but I will be as ecstatic as anyone else. But just like this Penguins series, they have to prove it, right? So we'll see. And I think now, Steven, if you don't mind, do you have any final true remarks on this series before we pivot and take a look at what the Rangers will be dealing with against, yes, the Carolina Rangers.
I'm gonna bring up the Penguins one more time.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
I think it's hilarious that the Penguins did not learn anything about the helmet rule after what happened last year. Do you know what happened last year?
Wait, with the Rangers or with a different team? I'm sorry.
The Penguins played the Islanders last year in the playoffs.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know the Islanders won that series, but I don't remember.
John Marino lost his helmet.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he skated to the bench. And there were talks, and the Penguins reached out to the league and asked about it. They were informed a year ago what the whole helmet rule was, and they still messed it up. Look, at the end of the day, the Rangers came back from a deficit 3 games in a row. All 3 were elimination games. That shows great resilience. And if the Rangers look, the key to beating Carolina is the Kits line.
I 100% agree with you.
If you look at the Rangers in the regular season when we lost against the Hurricanes, that line wasn't really clicking yet. But now, if that line clicks, all of a sudden you have 3 lines that can score a goal for you.
And this is something we didn't have. Even in the Rangers' final game against Carolina in regular season, granted, it's been proven time and time again that regular season performance doesn't mean much when it comes to playoffs. The Rangers, again, won 3 of 4 against the Pens in the season this year. But going back to what you said, the Rangers, outside their final performance against Carolina where they lost, and the one game that they did win against them, that was just because Alexander Georgiev, no one else. The Rangers didn't have the depth that they have right now, that they're exemplifying. And that doesn't denounce how amazing of a team Carolina is. And by no means will I feel ashamed if the Rangers say lose this series and I don't know, like even 5 or 6 games. I'll be upset, but I won't be too surprised. You know what I mean? Like I know how good Carolina is. No one should be shocked by that. But this series as well, not just with the young kids, but home ice is really what I want to emphasize with you, Steven, because as we know, that Carolina-Boston matchup that went 7, that took every home game for that home team to win. Neither team won 1 game on the road. They were blowout wins for the most part, both sides, regardless if you were in Boston or if you were in Carolina. Now I'm seeing, of course, people freaking out because if you don't reside in North Carolina, you cannot attend the game. You can't buy tickets. Now, something I want to say on this real quick is, one, this is not a surprise. Teams have been doing this for years now, not just
the Predators are famous for it.
Yes, and the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. I remember they've been very big on this. But what I really think is going to be awesome for the Rangers is the fact that a lot of New Yorkers reside in North Carolina. A lot of Ranger fans live in the area. Okay, they dominate every single. Let's not get it twisted. You really think that every time this season, years past, when the Rangers are in Carolina, that it's a sea of blue because they're all coming straight from New York? I promise you that is not the case. That's because a lot of New Yorkers live in the area for work reasons. I have family that lives in the area and friends. Like, that's not uncommon. So don't get me wrong. I can understand why some fans are upset by this. But one, this is normal. No one should be surprised. I most certainly am not. This is not a surprise to me. But 2, we should still expect a good amount of Ranger fans. Maybe even hidden. I wouldn't be. Maybe we'll see some fans wearing a Canes jersey, then they flip it off and have a Rangers shirt under. Like, who knows? I just know that none of this is surprising to me.
That actually reminds me of a story, and some Ranger fans might remember this. Years ago, the Islanders played the Rangers on Long Island, and they had this like Santa contest. Anyone who dressed up as Santa Claus was allowed to go on the ice after the game. So a lot of people showed up dressed up as Santa, and as they go onto the ice, there's like 100 people taking off their Santa costume, and they're wearing a Ranger jersey on the Islanders rink on the ice at the Coliseum. Listen, the Rangers won a 7-game series against one of the most experienced playoff teams at the moment in the NHL. And now we're going up against a team that hasn't won it yet.
And they are at their I don't know if I'd say they're at their peak, but damn, are they close. Like, they are right there.
The pressure is on them.
100%, Steve.
The Rangers are playing with house money. I said this after game 7. If we play 7 games, anything after that for me is gravy.
The Rangers have nothing to lose but gain.
Yeah,
Carolina
yeah,
has everything to lose here. Everything
yeah.
imaginable. It's a great point.
I'm just gonna enjoy every game. Oh, and how nice of the league to make at least one game, to give us at least one game with an earlier puck drop. Sunday's game is 3:30 Eastern.
There you go. There you go. I mean,
Like,
that should be the case. Sunday games for most sports are that way. Like I could give you an example for baseball, not just for the Mets, but for most teams, it's usually a day game on Sunday. So that way people can enjoy the remainder of their Sunday and go to bed at respectful times because
yeah,
everyone works usually the next day.
yeah. So I'm gonna have two friends coming over on Sunday to watch the game at my place.
There you go. Love to hear
It's
that.
8:30 p.m. our time when the puck drops. So although it's ESPN, so it might be 9 p.m. by the time the puck drops.
Oh, I got to tell you one quick story, and then everything you have to say, by all means, go ahead. First of all, I want to thank everyone again that's been chiming in here in the live stream or listening wherever you get your podcast or Rangers Review episode 57. I saw a couple donations. One was from Yona and another gentleman. I'm going to try to find it real quick. I appreciate both your donations. Thank you so much for that here on the channel. Big Apple Hockey, how's it going, Tom? That was the other $5 donation. Darren, great friend on the channel. Let's see, Brody, all you guys, appreciate everyone chiming in. But I did want to tell you, Steven, my buddy Gavin, like childhood friend of mine, huge Ranger fan. He's one of the only Ranger fans that I've like grown up with, at least through high school. Because, especially living in Pennsylvania, yes, we have Ranger fans, but I didn't grow up with a lot of them as fellow friends. And he's always be overly emotional, like to the point where this guy, like you don't even want to be in his path when the Rangers were losing the way that they are. And literally after game one, he was 100% certain that the Rangers series was done, that they were just completely done. He's like, they're not coming back. Here I am always being the optimist saying they will come back. I assure you. They win in game two. He's like, it doesn't matter. Then they get absolutely pistol whipped. And that we saw in the following game three and game four. He's done. And he didn't watch either of those games. Pardon me. And then we get into game five. And he said he's not watching, and they win. And I said, good. You are not allowed to watch game six. And he's like, okay. Doesn't watch game six. Good. And then he's telling me I'm going to watch game seven. I'm flipping out on this, man. I'm like, Gavin, we are going to lose this damn series because you're finally deciding to watch it again. Don't do it. He did it. Thankfully, the hockey gods were in our favor for this one. And he was like a kid in a candy shop. I've never seen him flip scripts the same way I never would have thought I'd see the Rangers flip scripts in that series, bouncing back the way that they did. So just wanted to share that with you because he's on cloud nine. I'm happy for everything. He went from being the most depressed guy in the world to literally just like you. Anything happens, doesn't matter. He is going home happy at the end of the day.
Look, over the last 10, 15 years, I've seen the Rangers come back in series so many times. It happened against the Senators and the Capitals in 2012. They went 7 games against the Capitals in 2013 in the first round. 2015, you down 3-1 against the Capitals. 2014, down 3-1 against the Penguins. It's just, I've seen it happen so many times. I don't give up when the Rangers are down because anything can happen. Honestly, I'm more confident in this team coming back from being down 2 goals than I am in them defending a 2-goal lead.
Yeah. No, I don't trust this team with a 2-goal lead at all. Like
No.
literally at all. No. They were called, like the resilient club this year for a reason. Why? Yeah. Because they were always coming back. God forbid this team gets off to an early like 2 or 3 goal lead. You're biting your tongue because it's only going to last for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, no, but I was talking to someone on Twitter last night. He watched the game with his son, I think like 11 or 12 years old, and he's like, yeah, he was too young when the Rangers had that cup run in 2014. So this is like his first experience where he actually is invested in the Rangers. He actually understands the implications of when
I know that feeling.
Goal scored, and we had a lovely conversation about how for his son, this is his first experience. It's his first experience with playoff hockey as a Rangers fan, and he's gonna have those memories forever.
Yep.
And for us, a series like this and a Game 7 win like last night brings back memories of previous series. You
couldn't have said it better, Steven.
It's all connected.
It makes you emotional. It really does.
It brings me back to the nights when I still lived in The Hague in the Netherlands, where the Rangers had that cup run in 2014, where the first game of the playoffs, I bought 2 bottles of wine. at the liquor store around the corner, and I gave the bottle to both my neighbors left and right of my apartment, and apologized in advance if they maybe wake up because of my screaming in the middle of the night. I had to explain why there was screaming, but it's sports related, so it was all good. And the Rangers won. So I made that a tradition. I think I bought 40 bottles of wine that postseason. I had 40 or 50 bottles of wine, and
It's crazy how superstitions work.
yeah, and a series like the one we just went through brought back those memories. I relocated to two different countries since the last time the Rangers were in the playoffs in 2017.
Yeah,
I never got to experience this while I was living in Austria for the last 4 years. But now going through this, watching Game 7, watching the Rangers win a Game 7, for me, for a lot of kids, this is their first experience, and for people that are our age and people that are older than us, it's just another experience, and it brings back memories to those old series. And there are people who go back all the way to like 1979 and 1972, when the Rangers had deep runs, and they go, oh yeah, no, this reminds me really of that game in like 1970 whatever. And I'm like, that's the beauty of it, because it's all connected, and we all have different memories, and we all make different connections between those memories, and that's the beauty of it.
100%. I mean, I have to be completely honest, especially with how my way of life and things I have to commit to on a daily has changed over the past couple of years. Yeah, I've been dying to get a certain level of emotion back with this team. I followed them all throughout the year, of course, like a normal diehard fan, but I've been dying to get that feeling that I had back when I was younger and really like first experienced those playoff runs. And maybe it was because of the fact that we have been without playoff hockey for 5 years now, right? It's been a while. It hasn't felt like it, but it really has. So me being spoiled and growing up with playoff hockey, I was living and dying with each period as it happened, and things changed a lot over that time. But especially with this series, it brought back like old me in that sense. It really just made me remember just how special not just this team is, the organization, but overall just that feeling of being all in on playoff hockey. There's nothing better. It's so hard to explain, but we all get those emotions. We all get those feelings back to our first moments, and they always stick with you. And this series stuck with me as well. It was very important for me. This was my brother just got married over the weekend, right? So this was a tremendous, series, not just based on the Rangers' performance and coming back, but also everything that was happening in between. So it's these are memories that I will always carry on forever. And I'm just very grateful that I was able to witness and be a part of this Ranger fandom at this time. And hopefully the fun memories don't stop this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, but yeah, we're building on this, and we're if it's not going to be this year, we're going to have new memories next year. And the Rangers are now getting in that next phase where we actually go from rebuilding to building, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's building now, and the biggest takeaway now is, regardless on the results of this series, the kids prove themselves. Like, how did they not? Like, they prove themselves
Yeah.
that they can take that next step. And I will say that, especially with Hedel, and I know it's crazy that Hedel's one of the longest tenured New York Rangers. It'll never feel that way, even though that he is. But for him to take the strides that he did, I think has to be one of, if not the biggest takeaway from what we've seen so far, just because he's a guy that has been filled with this uncertainty now. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that he's completely off the hook of what his future will be with the Rangers, given everyone that, of course, they have to assess in the offseason that we're not going to talk about today. So don't even try asking me, guys. We're not doing it. We're talking about playoff hockey. But point again is that Hedel, along with Kakko, Laugh, Key, Schneider, all these young kids, the guys that are your foundation, the guys that we all should be following for quite literally the next decade, they're all stepping up. Like they all have me feeling damn good about them heading into next season and the year beyond. This is the most important time of any time as a hockey player to be showing out. So to see kids having career high moments at this point, damn, does that feel good. It feels truly electric.
By the way, what do Mika Zibanejad, Adam Fox, Chris Kreider, Andrew Copp, and Artemi Panarin have in common in this playoff series?
All having game-winning goals?
No.
Okay, then what?
They're all at least a point per game.
Oh, that's good. I like that. It's Panarin. It's crazy that Breadman's.
I know.
You would have never thought. Where was this? Same thing with Mika. Like you would be looking on a carton of milk through the first 4 games. Like, I'm sorry, this man's been missing. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, that's absurd. That's actually crazy.
In a 7-game series against the Penguins, Mika Zibanejad had 11 points. Adam Fox had 10, and Kreider, Copp, and Panarin had 7.
Whew. Exactly what you want from your top players.
Mm-hmm.
And Panarin has, again, I've been thinking Panarin's been playing with an injury. I think he is. I don't know what. I know that he said post-game that, the Rangers, his team, they've been wanting him to shoot, and that's like shame on him for not doing it enough. But regardless, I'm happy that he's trying to shoot now.
I've seen people complain about Panarin that he's not a playoff performer and this and
that.
No.
That's bullshit. Did you not watch his series against Tampa? Like,
I was gonna say, like, this is a guy that carried the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2 consecutive postseasons on his back.
They swept Tampa when they had the best season like imaginable.
I know.
Kucherov had like 120 points that year.
Panarin is a playoff performer. Don't even get me started with that.
Yeah, that's just anyone that's acting that way. 1, isn't paying attention, has not been truly following along, or 2, just acting completely emotional in the moment. And I get it, people do that. Don't get me wrong, I'm well aware, but still, just
and look, with Zibanejad and Kreider stepping up the last couple of games, and also Vetrano getting 5 points in 7 games. Let's not forget about him. He's the lowest scoring player on that line, but still 5 points in 7 games. That line has 23 points in 7 games. With them producing, it takes a little bit of focus off Panarin and Strome and Copp.
Yeah,
because now you cannot afford to let that top line get away with something. You go up against Carolina now, and I think the big difference between Carolina and Pittsburgh for the Rangers is center depth. I think going up against a team that has Crosby, Malkin, Carter, and Blugers, that's probably the best depth at center that you're going to face in the playoffs in terms of experience. And now you're going up against the Carolina Hurricanes team that probably has more depth. But I can see opportunities. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. I'm not guaranteeing the Rangers to win, but it's the Carolina Hurricanes are not that good that before the puck drops you can say that we don't have a chance. And the Bruins have shown that the Hurricanes can be beaten. And look, Shesterkin is not going to be as bad as he was against the Penguins. He had a bad series and we still pulled through. What's important for the Rangers is, to just build on what they've done now. And let's also not forget that they finally got some structure on defense because Gallant actually did it. Gallant actually made the decision that he should have made in October.
It's better late than never, right, Steven?
Better late than never. But Justin Braun in the lineup over Patrick Nemeth has been great. And remember when the Rangers went 11 forward, 7 defensemen when Lindgren was back in the lineup?
Yes, I'm well aware.
Did you know what happened when Lindgren went to the locker room? Lindgren went to the locker room and Nemeth was the 7th defenseman. Not even in that situation, Gallant played Nemeth.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, look, most of the season, we've been looking at players like Hayek, Tenorti, Nemeth, McKegg, Gauthier, Brodzinski, Greco, and nothing against these players, but the moves we made at the deadline were moves that solidified this team.
Yeah, this team is nowhere where they are right now without these acquisitions. It's as simple as that.
And You know who Justin Braun reminds me of? And I think I mentioned this guy last week. Um, Justin Braun reminds me of, in my opinion, the best sixth defenseman I've ever seen on the Rangers, Steve Eminger.
Yes.
Steve Eminger you never really noticed him. But for some defensemen, that's a good thing. And Justin Braun is the same way. Justin Braun is not a player you notice on the ice because he just does what he needs to do, and then he doesn't get too cute with the puck. You know, he doesn't get too physical and puts himself out of position. He plays a very solid defensive game, very under the radar. Same with Steve Eminger. And I think that experience, there's having experience, and then there's having experience and still being a good hockey player. And Justin Braun brings experience and talent to the team. So I'm very happy with the lineup decisions that Gallant made in the last two games. And I cannot wait for game one on Wednesday. Do we really have to wait until Wednesday?
I know. Again, it's bittersweet though. It'll be a long wait, but it'll be here before we know it. Couple
On
things
the other hand, I think Ranger fans also need a couple of days to recover, mentally.
Yeah,
And
that's fair. That's fair. Let's not that you shouldn't calm down from the high that is, this game 7 victory.
no, but it's nice to have a couple of days where your heart rate can settle again.
But you can also have more time to marinate this victory and just the comeback of this series. Because let's say, for example, that the Rangers played right away, tonight, right? And say they get absolutely blown out by Carolina. That completely puts such a sour taste into what you just did prior. So it's good that they have this quick break. But a couple of things I want to mention quick, and I know that you have a quick prospect update. We can get to that in a second. One thing I want to say on the Carolina series, and then when we get to the Q&A segment, I saw some donations. We will be addressing them more. We'll be doing Q&A for around 10 or so minutes, answering whatever comments, concerns you guys have. Please, all I ask is that when we do get to that point here in the show, which is not yet soon, that we just focus strictly on playoffs, okay? Like I said, any offseason talk, I'm not going to acknowledge it just because that's all we're going to be talking about as soon as the Rangers are eliminated for quite literally months on end. So the least we can do is pump the brakes on those discussions for when the time is right. But talking about Carolina, this is fun because, again, this is the Carolina Rangers. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of boos that I know are inevitable when Tony makes his return to MSG for playoff time, the same way that Tony was targeted in the Boston series. But let's not forget, Tony absolutely torched Boston in that round one. He was simply phenomenal. He balled out for Carolina, as did that we've seen from plenty other former Rangers. But Tony has been their X factor with that puck moving defenseman that he is. But when you have Tony, you have, of course, Jesper Fast. I'm waiting for the inevitable game winning goal in one of these games by Jesper. It's destined to happen. It feels like, not that I wish it. I'm just saying I'm bracing myself for what feels inevitable. Truly, Derek Stepan, of course, even though he's on that fourth line, Brady Shea with Pesci. I mean, even Brendan Smith. This is going to be crazy. And the thing about all these former Rangers is that a good portion of them, at least, they have a good grasp of this team, and they know the atmosphere. They understand MSG well, and that is going to help favor the likes of Carolina in this matchup. And my question to you, Steven, is how much of an impact do you expect these former Rangers to have in this series? Do you think that their impact is going to be so prominent that it really is, the biggest X factor in either them winning or losing?
I think
Anthony Raanta, of course, can't forget about him. Sorry to cut you off.
I think of the former Rangers, the one that's going to make the biggest impact is Jesper Fast.
Okay.
D'Angelo, I think they can contain because he's good, but defensively he's a black hole. But I don't know if anyone has realized this, but do you guys remember that trade that Gordon made in 2017 with the Arizona Coyotes?
Involving who?
The New York Rangers traded Derek Stepan.
Yeah, the Anthony Raanta trade, yeah.
To the Arizona Coyotes for 7th overall and Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah.
The 3 players involved in that trade are now on the Carolina Hurricanes facing them.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that during the year. That's actually, I'm surprised we didn't do that. That's a great point.
Yeah. I think Brendan Smith might be an unsung hero on that team. I still think we should have kept him. And I think Brady Shea in the right role can really thrive. And Brady Shea in Carolina has other defensemen that do the dirty work, that take on those tough matchups. Jacob Slavin is one of the most underrated defensemen still.
He's so him and Pesci are again just so good, so unbelievably
I
good.
would give up a lot to get Jacob Slavin on my team,
I would.
because if there's one thing the Rangers still lack, or the one thing the Rangers still need to improve is the fact that we're bleeding shots.
I would zone in on him more,
Mm,
basically 9 out of 10 times of the week, like doing that
yeah.
over Jacob Chychrun.
Chychrun
Yeah.
is a really good one, but yeah, Slavin, that contract is just a beauty.
They're so good with their bargain deals.
Yeah. But look, the Rangers just give up too many shots, and it was evident again last night. Yeah, the fifth team in NHL history to allow at least 45 shots on goal in a Game 7 at home.
Wow.
It's always the same thing. So yeah, Slavin is a guy that I'm really a big fan of. But that forward core, man, and this is where the Rangers really need to manage their matchups, and this is where home ice advantage really matters, because a lot of fans think home ice advantage is just your fans in the stands. No, the biggest thing with home ice advantage is that you have the last change for faceoffs.
Yep.
The visiting coach has to put his line out first, and then the home team's coach can then respond to that. The Carolina Hurricanes. Let me quickly look up their lineup just to go over, because we're doing like a Carolina Hurricanes.
Here, I can tell you. I have it right in front of me. Their lines, if you want to
know. No, I have it here too.
Okay.
Don't worry. So the Carolina Hurricanes, of course, that top line: Svechnikov, Aho, and Jarvis is with them now.
Yep.
Seth Jarvis is a dangerous guy.
He was such a good. I mean, when they picked him up in the draft, I was like, damn, they just got themselves like a bona fide goal scorer right away.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at those four lines, this reminds me of the 2014 New York Rangers. All those four lines can score goals. You have Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis. Then you have Teravainen, Trocheck, Netjas. That's your second line. Niederreiter, Jordan Staal, and Jesper Fast on the third line. And your fourth line is Kotkaniemi, Stepan, and Domi.
Yeah.
And you still have Martinuk. I don't know, is Martinuk injured or?
Let me tell you. Hold on. Hold on.
But if the games get a little tight, then they'll probably put Martinuk in there instead of maybe.
Yeah, I think he's healthy. It just looks like he's a healthy scratch. I'm looking through daily faceoff, so I know that the injuries they have right now are Jake Gardner, obviously, and Freddie. Do we know how much longer Anderson's out for?
They said that he might be back for the second round, so we'll see.
Probably at some point.
Yeah, but look, this is a dangerous team that has, like I said, the Penguins are top heavy. The Carolina Hurricanes have the depth to kill you. It's all about the matchups. It's all about finding the right matchups and countering the intensity that they throw out there, because this team knows how to play. And one thing that we might forget, the Carolina Hurricanes were in the conference final in 2019 when we were drafting second overall. At the start of our rebuild, this team was already was already reaching the Final Four.
Yep.
So this team has the experience. They've been to the conference final before. They just need to get over that hump. But I like our chances because the pressure is on them. The Rangers are the underdog. No one's expecting anything of us.
You know what this is giving me vibes of a little bit, if I'm being honest with you? What? This is giving me vibes of the Ottawa Senators in 2017 against our New York Rangers. Granted, the New York Rangers were at the tail end of that run, but the point is that was an Ottawa team that, again, just exceeded expectations on all fronts from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. No, true. It's a good point. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the series. And those former Rangers, I hope we're not going to hear too much about it, because there's so much more to it.
Oh, we will. I mean, all everyone is going to do on social media is focus about Tony, because he stays living rent free in everyone's heads. It's actually ridiculous how much he has. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not that way with him. I don't love the guy, obviously, but I mean, my goodness gracious, people like, God forbid, if this guy balls out in any of the games, people are literally going to have a heart attack. And I'm going to sit here saying, yeah, I'm not surprised. He's been quite literally a point per game defenseman for Carolina this year.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be a fun series. I'm really looking forward to the Brady Shea, Braden Schneider comparisons.
Yeah, that's good. Yep, for sure.
And I was talking to people after the game last night. The last 2 times the Rangers traded up in the first round in the draft, they picked Keandre Miller and Braden Schneider.
And look at the impact they're already having.
I know. That's 2018 and 2020. You know, that's
oh my God, that's actually nuts to think about. Literally, like, in hindsight, Schneider could be in Carolina right now with them. Like, that's really what they could be doing. And don't get me wrong, Shea hasn't been absolutely terrible. He's been rock solid for them at times. But I got to be honest, if I want someone that has an upside the way that Schneider has, I mean, I think it's night and day. Like, I feel that Shea truly hit his peak very early in his career.
It's like the Zibanejad Brassard trade. You know, the Brassard trade made a lot of sense for the Senators in 2016
at the time
because they needed a playoff performer, and Zibanejad wasn't there yet, and they didn't have the time to wait for him to grow into one because they had to capitalize on guys like Hoffman and Carlson and Stone, all being in their prime. And I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting some. Ryan Dzingel was there too.
Yeah, he was a dud. He fell off a cliff real quick.
Was after his breakout year? Yeah. So they had to do something. You know, they had to go for it. The Carolina Hurricanes in 2020 didn't really have the time to wait for a defenseman to grow into something. You know, they lost Justin Falk to the St. Louis Blues. They needed a reliable defenseman with NHL experience. They gave up a first-round pick. And the Carolina Hurricanes can afford to because the Carolina Hurricanes are a team that drafts really well in the later rounds anyway. So they get Brady Shea, and we trade up and get Braden Schneider. That's one of those trades where I can see the reasoning behind it for both teams.
100%. Okay, so Steven, why don't you give us a very quick prospect update, if you don't mind, and then we'll shift into answering some questions, shall we?
Sure. So the Rangers, about 2 hours ago, tweeted, so it's now official, Ryder Korzak, Adam Edstrom, and Olof Lindbom signed their entry-level contracts. I don't have an Olof Lindbom jersey, otherwise I would have put up that one as well. But
I would recommend not doing that just because there has been an unfortunate trend with jerseys you acquire of young Rangers who end up starting with too soon.
It's because I acquire most of them and not all of them pan out. You know, it's just a numbers game.
Yeah.
You know, as a baseball fan, you should understand that.
All I do is look at numbers every single day.
But yeah, Adam Edstrom, 6'8", 225. That guy is going to surprise some people. He's probably going to start in Hartford. And then there's another Swedish player that the Rangers are linked to. It's not official yet. But Gustav Rydahl, who plays for Färjestad in the SHL, 27-year-old center, undrafted free agent. He won the SHL championship with his team and now goes to the World Championships with Sweden. So they will probably announce it after the World Championships are over.
Is this a like Ville Meskanen situation? Like
it's sort of like a Meskanen, Stromwall, Michael Lindquist situation where you give a contract to a guy who does well in Europe, and worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, and they go back to Sweden.
Yep.
It's a no risk signing. So yeah, the other three signed their entry level deals, of course, draft picks that we know. Lindbom, 2nd round pick in 2018, Edstrom, 6th round pick in 2019, and Korzak, 3rd round pick in 2021. Korzak now eliminated from the playoffs in the WHL. They lost to the Winnipeg Ice, one of the best teams in junior hockey at the moment.
Wow.
So in the WHL, Dylan Garand has advanced to the conference final with the Kamloops Blazers.
Awesome.
Matt Rempe and the Seattle Thunderbirds are down 3-2 in the series against Portland. If they advance, they play Dylan Garand in the conference finals. And then in the Ontario Hockey League, we have a conference finals matchup between Will Cooley and Brennan Othman.
That's gonna be fun. Hopefully Will doesn't get too aggressive with Othman on the other side of the ice. We need to make sure both those boys are healthy.
These two kids played each other earlier in the season, in the regular season, and in that game they both scored a hat trick. So I'm excited.
Ooh, okay. I mean,
Both,
let them both thrive by all
yeah,
means. I can
yeah.
care less who wins. Just let's see them both thrive, right?
But I quickly want to touch on what Othman did in the second round because this is unbelievable.
Go for it.
The Flint Firebirds beat the Sioux Greyhounds in 5 games.
Wow.
And in those 5 games, Othman had 12 points.
Whew. So picking up right where you left off in the regular season, huh?
Yeah. The first round he was I don't want to say quiet, and he was still close to a point per game, but this second round he's really taken off.
That's great to hear. I mean,
yeah.
he blew. It's similarities to Kreider's breakout year. Othman really blew me away with how he just took a level that I didn't. I got to be quite honest with you. Granted, I know that you've been following Othman far more intensely than I have, but since the Rangers acquired him in the first round not long ago, I did not think that he would already be at this level. Like, he has taken a significant jump in a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the final game where the Flint Firebirds won the series, he put up 3 assists.
Awesome.
4 goals and 8 assists in 5 games for Othman.
Not too shabby, if I do say so myself.
That's unbelievable. And yeah, it's going to be fun, watching Cooley and Othman go up against each other. Yeah, it's fun to watch these kids get like good playoff experience, even if it's in juniors.
Yep.
Yeah, and other than that, do we have any other prospect updates? Adam Huska is playing in the World Championships for Slovakia at the moment.
Awesome.
So
Good.
if people have nothing to do and they want to tune in, he's their goaltender in the tournament. Not a lot of Ranger players active there, of course, because we are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not like recent years where you could tune in for 5 or 6 different players. But if you ask me, I prefer playoff hockey. So
just a little bit, just a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay. Here,
so yeah.
Before we get into answer, we're gonna be doing Q&A for like 10 minutes or so, folks, and then we'll wrap up today's show. Would like everyone to know now. Again, I'll say at the end of the pod, but next time I'd say that Steve and I record will be a week from now. I figure next Monday. That'll be after 2 games for the Rangers. After they won through 2 at least in this series, right?
That's 3 games.
3.
They play Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Wednesday, Friday. Ooh, okay. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
I would say Monday's still probably best because I will be out of town this Saturday all day, so I will not be able to record that.
So we'll record after game 3.
Yeah, that's fine, and that'll give us, I think, a good taste on hopefully. I mean, actually, who knows? I shouldn't even say that because after 3 games and 3, let alone 4, I thought if the reason why Steve and I did not record after another 2 games in the Penn series, we were planning to do every 2. The reason why we didn't do it after game 4 was because it would just been us screaming doom and gloom that, okay, this really looks like this is it. And rightfully so. We had no reason to believe otherwise whatsoever from that game 4 performance. So, and in hindsight, it's probably a good thing that we're not doing it after every 2 games. But a couple donations I would like to address quick. One is from Davis. Thank you. Davis has been a great support on the channel here on Rangers Review. There's a chance the Rangers will tighten up the defense next series to give Igor some help. It is just me, or am I just seeing too much? No, you're 100% right. I mean, look, Igor definitely wasn't spot on this series in every game by any stretch, but he also got hung out to dry so much in the beginning of the series, like beyond belief. And the Rangers defense has still struggled to look sharp at times. So, Steven, what would be your best way of responding to this?
I mean, it's not gonna be easy. You're going up against a better team. You're gonna have to look. Defense is not just the 2 guys on the blue line. Defense is played by all 5 skaters, and I think that's the key here. Getting Tyler Motte back is huge for the 4th line.
Such a big X factor.
But watching Tyler Motte with Zibanejad and Kreider, I was actually kind of excited about that. You know,
I was digging it too, a little bit more than I think I
because
initially
I
expected.
think the biggest problem with our defense is that, especially that Zibanejad line doesn't really have the defensive awareness. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, Kreider gets his goals, and Zibanejad, when he's on his game, he's a top 5 center in the world.
Yep.
And Vetrano pots his goals here or there. You know, he's a jitterbug. He's fast. He skates back and forth. But they're missing that two-way player there.
They're missing quite literally a Jesper Fast type, if we're being honest.
Yes, yeah, Jesper Fast. I think honestly, I think Capo Caco can turn into that player. I think
I mean, Capo has all the makings of a phenomenal two-way winner.
Yeah, yeah. Capo Caco. It reminds me a little bit of another Finnish winger. The last winger to win the Selke. Do you know who it is?
Last winner to win the Selke. What year was that?
Late 90s, early 2000s, I think.
Late 90s, and he's Finnish.
Yeah. If the Finnish guys are in the chat, they might know.
No, I'm not looking at the chat. I want to get this. Okay.
Played for the Dallas Stars.
Okay. Ooh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, okay. Hold on. Shoot. It's right there. It's gonna piss me off now. He was playing with Madonna, right?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm right there. Oh no. Okay, give me the first letter of the last name.
L.
I'm not going to be able to. Is it something with the N in?
Yeah, Jere Lehtinen.
There you go. I knew. There you go. I knew it was right. It was right there. Okay.
Yeah. But you know, Lehtinen also played for TPS in Finland, so
of course he did.
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that Kako is going to win a Selke, but he's defensively responsible, and I think that the Zibanejad line needs something there. And to answer Davis' question, they need some more balance defensively from their forwards. I think that Panarin line, I think Andrew Cobb does a really good job defensively. I think that's fine. The third line has Kako. I'm happy with that. The fourth line has Motte and Rooney. The problem is if you put Motte on the top line, who you gonna put on the fourth? You know,
are you really going to move Frank? I mean, you have to. The only way to justify is that you put Frankie to the fourth. I don't think you touch the kid line unless it gets absolutely worked early on in the Carolina series. Now, should that happen, then I say, okay, it's rightfully justified to mix things up.
Yeah, I would at least, at the very least, consider putting Motte on that line for the defensive zone faceoffs.
And I wouldn't hate it just because of the fact that if you put Frankie on that fourth line, yes, it's not as gritty of a line that you had with Motte, but it does give you an entirely heavier speed element outside of Rooney. That definitely could benefit things based on what is still going to be a pretty speedy fourth line for Carolina, led by Kotkaniemi and Domi. And Stepan, again, not known for his wheels, but by all means, he's not a slouch either. So yeah. I do think that there actually is potential there to putting Frankie there, as long as Motte doesn't just completely change his game if he gets an extended amount of time there with, with Kreider and Zibanejad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting to see what's going to happen there, but yeah, we need a little bit more from the forwards there.
Agreed. Now, Big Apple Hockey, great friends of the channel. They're doing amazing things over on theirs as well. Make sure to check them out. Big friends. Thank you guys so much for the donation. Let's keep this NYR train going. Absolutely. LGM and LGR. Let's go, Justin. 100%. And speaking of the Mets for a quick second,
there has to be Mark, by the way. The Let's Go Justin reference. Do you know what that's about?
I'm missing out on that inside joke. So enlighten
me. So Mark, lovely guy. Don't get me wrong, but he struggles sometimes with names, and he called Huberdeau Justin Huberdeau.
Oh, that'll do it.
And it's become a running gag now, where Justin is now part of the broadcast and stuff. Anyway,
we do. I like Mark. That. Yeah, appreciate the donation again. And LGM, and what I want to say was not to toot my own horn, not that it wasn't the sole factor, but there's something to be said about the Rangers winning Game 7 with a large contingency of New York Rangers and New York Mets in attendance. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. It didn't hurt to have my Mets there, and they were all pounding beers. That was great to see. I was at my whenever my worlds collide, it was like last year. Francisco Lindor, the Mets shortstop, and Adam Fox met each other at Citi Field and exchanged jerseys. I mean that was peak. That was like me at my best. Quite
Speaking
literally.
of the Mets, Tyler, did you watch Frequency yet?
No, I didn't, Steve. I'm sorry. I've been so busy. I will watch it. I promise you.
Okay.
I promise you I will watch it. I know.
Okay.
I know. I don't gotta tell me twice. I'm well aware. Same way that I told you what movie did I tell you off air that I wanted you to watch? Shit. Was it
It cannot be a really good movie because you cannot even remember which movie it was.
No. Was it Major League? Have you seen Major League?
No.
There you go. Have you seen Sandlot?
No.
Okay, there you go. You've seen Moneyball.
Yes.
Okay. But you haven't seen Major League.
Moneyball's okay. It's not. Moneyball is a good movie. It just doesn't live up to the hype, in my opinion.
I think there's a lack of understanding there on your part, if I'm being completely
honest.
No.
I get it. It's a good movie, and I like the concept of the movie. But I think, and this is what a friend of mine told me. The problem with Moneyball is that they don't really go over. They make it look like the Oakland A's were the worst team in baseball, and they only got so far because of analytics, but it wasn't that bad.
I mean, the Oakland A's. We'll talk off air about this. I don't want people listening to this. Is not a baseball podcast. I'm not trying to get too deep into this. But let's just say there are more things on that movie and the overall A's organization that I need to inform you on that I think will help things a little bit that maybe you're not aware of. But okay, let's address a couple more comments before we wrap things up here. Let's see. Okay, now, Joe, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. This is a good question, though. How did the kids do defensively, metrics-wise? Because it seemed like every time they were on the ice, they were sprinting into offensive zone opportunities.
I can quickly look that up. I think I saw someone tweet that today or yesterday. Hold on. Let me see. Nope.
Oh my goodness! Someone in the chat says Moneyball was a one-time watch. Oh my goodness!
No, it's not that bad. It's a movie you can watch more than once.
Stop it! Stop the count.
It's a movie where you can at least convince your girlfriend to watch because Brad Pitt's in it.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal point.
Yeah.
She would have no clue. The numbers wise though, I would need to break things down to a T for her. That would be.
I think my fiance will be fine with those numbers. She's as crazy about sports as I am. So
quite. If she struggled, I would say there's a concern. If I'm being honest, because I expect a lot from her.
Are you saying I have to watch Moneyball with her before we get married?
Yeah, I think so. She'll probably inform you more than you've been self-informed on the movie.
Yeah. Now I'm struggling to find, but what I remember is that the up to like Game 4, Game 5, the lottery line, as I saw people call it,
which is a great name, I will say.
It's a great name. I think they were like 72%. In Corsi percentage, so they get out of all the shots on goal for both teams combined when they're on the ice, the Rangers get 70% of the shots when they're on the ice. So the kids line is doing well defensively. They're taking away scoring chances. Yeah, of course there were instances where they got pinned down in the zone by Crosby, but every line got pinned down in the zone by Crosby this series.
Yeah.
I'm just happy Hedl finally took that next step. Yesterday, I think early on the first two periods, Hedl was our best player.
Oh, I mean,
He,
yeah, he 100% was. He
yeah,
looked
yeah,
electric for them. I
yeah,
was jaw dropped by how I saw Heedle in this series, to be quite frank.
yeah.
Okay, I see. We'll address like two more before we wrap things up, folks. What is the Rangers' game plan against Aho, who NYR had some issues with during the season? I think, granted, I don't know exactly what their game plan is going to be, but I think the Rangers need to adopt a similar game plan in the sense of how they started the Penn series and then they went away from it drastically was to really jump on them with their aggression, right? This is
Mhm.
a team that just came out of a 7-game set against Boston. That's no easy task. And you need to continue to grind these teams out early. If you can do that, that can benefit you a lot. It won't be as easy because again, this is a young, vibrant, up and coming still Carolina team that is by all means younger and faster than what we saw with the Pittsburgh Penguins. However, doesn't change the notion that what do you want to do? You want to try to slow them down the best you can and as fast as
Yeah,
you can. And when looking especially at Aho, that's going to come down to the top line versus top line. You know, we need to see Mika continue to do his best to lock down like he did with Crosby there in game 7. We need to see him win faceoffs, and we need to see them be on the same exact par as Carolina's top performers are. That's the only way this Ranger team truly has a chance,
yeah.
not just offensively, but they need to make sure that they know how to properly forecheck and backcheck. If they are not up to that, then we are, boy, oh boy, are we going to be screwed before we know it.
Yeah, I just need Zibanejad to build on Game 7. You know,
Yeah.
that 72% face-off percentage. If he can be above 50% for every game against the Hurricanes, and he goes up against that top line, I know people say, oh, face-offs aren't that important. Yes, they are. You know, they dictate the flow of the game the first 10 seconds after the face-off. It's all about momentum. I think Aho is definitely their most dangerous player. I know Svechnikov is a really good player, but Aho is so underrated. He's something.
Aho's the most dynamic, I would say.
Yeah. I'm more comfortable putting Andrew Cobb up against Aho, especially on faceoffs.
Yep.
Play Strome as a winger on that line, or at least have you can play Strome as the center, but let Cobb take the draws.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
anytime that you have an opportunity to have Cop being the faceoff dot, you need to do it.
yeah. Yeah, I think we can win this, but it's going to be tough. You know, you're going up against a team that, in my book, is the front runner for the cup this year.
You have them ahead of the Avs.
Yep.
Wow. I have them both very close. I mean, the Avs, you know, we'll see with them. It's going to be a very interesting series with them with St. Louis. I mean, if
The
St. Louis
only
can make
difference
that anything of that series, that's going to be huge.
to me, the only difference between the Maple Leafs and the Avalanche is that the Avalanche win a round before they choke.
I mean, you're not wrong. They have struggled to after the first round for multiple
Oh,
years. And they're
can we talk
so
about
overdue.
can we talk about the fact that with the Maple Leafs eliminated, they're going to be drafting kids that weren't alive the last time they won a playoff
I,
series?
we're all Leafs fans can agree. All just casual hockey fans can agree. We're just at a loss for words at this point when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Game 7 at home for the Maple Leafs. They must have. I'd have to look it up. They must have the worst record in Game 7 at home.
It's not good. But yeah, a lot phenomenal series. So many win Game 7. That the game last night between Dallas and Calgary was insane. I mean, Jake Oettinger doing like Igor, as phenomenal as he is. Jake Oettinger, what a star in the making he is. But he's stepped up in the playoffs, not just this year, but in previous years. But man, oh man, he's an absolute
Yeah.
stud at over 60 saves.
By
Couldn't
the
even
way,
get them the damn win.
the 2017 draft for Dallas, they got Heiskanen, Oettinger, and Robertson.
Literally their core three.
Yeah, yeah.
That's their franchise right there.
Yeah. 2017 is the draft that set them up. And don't forget, this is a Dallas Stars team that went to the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago.
Yep. And they had a complete clunker of a year last year, shook that off, however. And again, unfortunately, they fell short this year, but I'm very excited for the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton has been my West team for like a decade now. I'm not on the McDavid bandwagon or anything, but I've always been a fan of the Oilers, really, since I fully got into hockey. So they will have my support in that what's going to be an awesome series. And then, St. Louis Avalanche is going to be crazy. I'm rooting for St. Louis just quite literally just because of Booch, if I'm being honest with you. And because the Booch Zook matchup, I was fine with whoever won that one because I'm rooting for them both. Yeah, there's a lot of good series going on right now. And then Florida Tampa, that's huge. I mean, Florida got worked by the Caps, but they got out of it. They finally got out of that first round. They took the monkey off their back. That was the first time in a very long time finally advance. And Florida absolutely did phenomenal against Tampa in so many games during the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. And either way, all I know is that there's a lot of great playoff hockey coming up. And hopefully our New York Rangers get to, impress a little bit more before their year is over.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we answered everything that we wanted. We're an hour and a half exactly into the show. So I think this is a great stopping point for us, guys. I want to thank everyone so much that listened here on live on YouTube, or many of you, of course, on replay, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Like I said, we'll be back exactly a week from now. That is the goal, next Monday after 3 games of this series. Hopefully we come back to the Rangers being up at minimum 2-1. And even if they're down, we have learned that this team has shown a resiliency, not just during the regular season, but also in playoffs when it has mattered the most. So a lot's going to happen. I'm very excited. I know you guys are too. And Steven, do you have any final words before we get out of here?
Yeah, what episode number is this?
This is episode 57, Steven. No one is crossing my mind as we speak. The first person to cross my mind, I think he wore a different number, but I could have sworn Tarmo Ronanen was 57 at some point.
Tarmo Ronanen was 51.
Okay. I don't know why I thought he was 57.
There's no player in NHL history who's ever worn 57 in an official game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'll drop an honorable mention in Derek Stepan, who wore 57 as a rookie in preseason.
Of course he did. That's I felt like it was going to be one of those situations, did it not? Okay. All right. Yeah. That's going to do it, folks. This was episode 57 of Rangers Review. We'll be back in a week. Hope everyone has a great one. Hopefully the Rangers play some damn good hockey, and we have a lot of fun things to talk about. But everyone, enjoy the rest of your week. Talk to you again soon. And Steven, let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.